checkmk will be the monitoring solution I'll use in this course. It was initially based on Nagios, the tool almost every system administrator used back in a day, but it continued to evolve and became a really solid option even for today's time. We'll deploy an open source version, a so-called raw edition. The way it works is you install checkmk raw server and then you deploy agents to any host you wish to monitor. In our case, server will run inside a Docker container and agent will run on the VPS. Let's add an A record for checkmk. Hostname will be checkmk.dodhp.com, IP address will be public IP of the VPS, set the TTL and click Save. Directories will be agent, checkmk and tasks. We'll deal with the agent directory after we deploy the server. Let's first open main.yml inside tasks directory. Everything in here should be familiar. Services directory, copy checkmk directory to the VPS, run the container and add backup script to the root cron tab. This last part here explains how to install checkmk's Docker plugin, which will allow you to monitor individual Docker containers. Save the file and open dockercompose.yml inside checkmk directory. This time we'll have two services, checkmk and mailer. For checkmk part, you should be familiar with these first few, and tmpfs is suggested in checkmk's documentation for better performance. In volumes, I'm mapping the local time on the VPS to the one inside the container to match the time zones. And I'm using the directory sites in the current directory, that will be root services checkmk sites on the VPS, to persist the data checkmk creates. In environment section, I'm setting mail relay host variable as described in their checkmk server in a Docker container documentation page, section sending notifications. What this means is that postfix that is inside the checkmk container is not configured to deliver mails directly to the internet. Instead, it sends mail to a so-called SMTP relay server or smart host, which is this mailer. This mailer must match the service name down here. They are both called mailer. We then configure this mailer service to properly authenticate to the mail.dodhp.com using these environment variables. So mail from checkmk container will end up in mailer service, mailer will authenticate to our mail server, and message will reach its final destination. Note that both mailer and checkmk services are part of the Docker network named web. Logging parameters are something you already saw, as are labels, with a note that the web server inside the checkmk container listens on port 5000. Save the file and open .env file inside checkmk directory. Nothing particularly new here, except these smart host variables. I'm using the fqdn of mail server as smart host address, port is 587, and I'm using full account name as smart host user. Save the file, open backup.sh also in checkmk directory, and this looks exactly the same as in Pi-hole and Nextcloud. Save the file, open setup.yml, comment out all other roles and create a new one called checkmk, save the file and run Ansible playbook. Ansible has finished, traffic picked up the new service, and if I navigate to checkmk.dodhp.com, I will be greeted with a login screen. If you were paying attention, you noticed that we didn't configure user and password anywhere yet, so how do we log in? You need to check logs of the checkmk Docker container. On the VPS, navigate to services checkmk and run docker compose logs. You're interested in this line here. I'll copy the password and I'll log in. Username is cmkadmin. I'll paste the password and click login. I encourage you to look around, see what's available in the setup, maybe change your password, but I'll move on with setting up the checkmk agent.